Now, Shenmue 3 is going to be coming out, well, might come out depending on whether or not the Kickstarter actually kind of is a success. But from what I can understand, or from what I really kind of feel at this point, I feel as though the Kickstarter for that game might actually just be a way to prevent Sony or any investors from taking control of the project. Because you gotta realize that in the past, games have essentially been, original. When they first start out, remember the old saying, the original's always better, or the first game's always better? Well, that is sort of true, because, as the game goes on, and as, the more sequels are planned, more and more, investor control starts leaking into the game, and essentially turning it away from what its original vision was. DLC is obviously an investor move because, well, obviously a developer move as well, because they want to prevent people from pirating, but, how are you going to prevent people from pirating when they can just pirate the game and then pirate the DLC? So, it's a really, really big mixed bag there. But I feel as though that the whole entire thing here is a move on the developer's part to prevent investors from messing with the game, or from destroying his original vision for Shenmue 3. And I don't blame him for that, because I would imagine if investors were behind this game, they probably would not have made it a sequel to Shenmue 2. They probably would have just turned it into something completely different, or a completely different story, and it would have had nothing to do with the original two games whatsoever. Now, it's not to say that Shenmue 1 and 2 were not, backed by investors. I mean, I'm pretty sure that they were. I mean, this guy used to be a part of the Sega until he kind of jumped ship to Sony about, I don't know, 10 years? So within 10 years he has jumped ship to Sony. And the game, I think, is going to be a PS4 exclusive, or depending on when it comes out, who knows. But it seems as though that the Xbox One might not get it. Just putting that out there. I am really just kind of meh. Like, I can understand his possible reasoning why he probably made this game a Kickstarter thing only. But yet again, there have been some people who have said, this guy could have just as easily gotten investor backing, or Sony's help. It's the gray area, it's the big fat gray area. I can't really decipher whether or not what part would have been better, him taking the investor route or just going Kickstarter. It's difficult. I can't tell which part would have been better. In terms of a gamer, a lot of people say, oh, well, his whole entire Kickstarter campaign is great, yada, 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 yada. But then you also have to look at it in the eyes of the gamer as well, saying, like, it's kind of crap, because now we're going to get tons of Kickstarter campaign games that will essentially abuse the system, and then essentially ask us to fund DLC. Okay, no, there are legitimately games out there that actually ask you to fund DLC. I think Shenmue 3 was actually going to do that too. They ask you, they charge you, they ask, oh, fund DLC here. Okay, they fund the DLC, and then they sell the DLC back to you. So really, they're getting twice the amount of money out of you, depending on how much is left over. And essentially, they ask you to pay for the DLC once, and then they pay for it again. And to be honest with you, that's kind of cheap. Very cheap. Like, it's cheesy. Like, if you want to make DLC, I feel as though you should probably make it on your own and not ask for anybody to fund the very thing that everybody, especially in this generation, feel is literally killing games, because DLC at this point has been under fire for a very long time. Okay, tons of people are just, like, everyone hates it. But I feel as though his whole entire choice in terms of the Kickstarter thing is to prevent investor control. But whether or not it is a good idea is still in question.